My name is Pat. I am the general manager for Boston for Getaround. Before I get started, just a quick show of hands. How many of you guys have heard of Getaround before? All right, so a good amount in the room. For those of you that don't know, we're basically like the Airbnb for cars. We let people in Boston rent their cars out to other people in the city and use them to make money on the side. So to get into it quickly, it's pretty simple. All of our cars have a special device installed in them that lets the renter actually unlock the car with their phone. So from a renter perspective, it's as simple as going on our app, selecting a car, renting it for one of its available times, going to that car for the time that you rented it, unlocking it, and having a drive. When you bring it back, you bring it right back to the place you parked it in. The benefit for how we work is that because we control the ability to unlock and lock the doors, it actually opens up a whole new element to this whole car sharing industry. So I can get into that in a little bit with this. So that's our Getaround Connect device. And this is really what differentiates us from the rest of the competitors in the market. What we are doing by having this device in the car is we're removing the need to have the owner and renter interact. We're completely changing that transaction by allowing the renter to approach the car, unlock it with their phone, get the keys that are in the car, and never have to really have a conversation or a handoff with the car owner. And what this really means is as a car owner, you can now rent your car while you're at work, while you're on vacation, for as little as an hour or for as long as a month. You're not limited to the amount of time that you want to be handing off your keys, and you're limited to the amount of time that you're actually available to hand off the keys. So it really opens up the flexibility that we have in utilizing these assets that are our owners' cars. So having a real impact. It's obviously a big issue, the amount of cars that are on the road right now, and our goal is to reduce that. We know that in cities like Boston, there's a lot of zero-car homes. Zero car home being a home that has no cars. And our goal is to make sure that that home never has the need to get a car. There's plenty of cars already in the city. And just some quick metrics. If just 10,000 people were to share their cars on Getaround, and we already have about 3,000 to 4,000 across the US, we're taking 100,000 other cars off the road. We'll offset 1 billion pounds of carbon pollution, and we'll inject $100 million into local neighborhoods and economies. Now granted, we just launched the Boston office about 8 months ago, but we've been in California and San Francisco for about 6 years. We're also in Portland, Chicago, New York, and DC. So we're already increasing our footprint quite a bit in the US, and we're getting that much closer to achieving this goal. So we're having a local impact, right? People with real cars, real people, in our market are being able to rent out their cars and make real money on an average basis. We've got people taking home over $1,000 a month just renting out their cars. It's providing a whole new income and revenue stream for a car owner who, prior to using our app, had this depreciating asset that was doing nothing but costing them money on a weekly basis. And to back up this whole process, where security and safety is a huge measure that we like to invest heavily on. We know that for a lot of people, renting out their car is kind of a questionable move and something that they're not fully comfortable with. They haven't done it before. So we want to make sure that they feel secure the entire place throughout the entire process. So from a car perspective, we inspect these cars. We make sure they're safe. We have limitations for the year that the car can be, for the mileage that the car can be, and we make sure that every car that's on the road should be on the road and is acceptable to drive. And then from the renter perspective, we're also making sure that all of our renters are adequately covered and adequate drivers to be renting out these cars. They go through a thorough background check, and then while they're driving the car, are actually covered by a $1 million insurance policy that covers all of the cars during the rental. I think that is all we got. So bottom line is, Getaround is kind of the way of the future. We've got a huge issue, and it is this incredible amount of cars on the road. And as people are moving to the city, there's not enough room to add more cars to that batch. It's really expensive to park, insurance is really expensive, and owning a car in itself is a huge expense that lasts for the longest time that you have the car. So what we're here to do is help improve that problem, give car owners an extra revenue stream, and give people without cars a way of getting around that is in their control.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I'd love to go any questions.
Do you let
cities organically introduce themselves, or do you strategically try to launch in a particular area?
Good question. So we're very strategic with how we're launching right now. Like I said, we're only in 6 markets, or we're in 6 markets, and right now it's in our best interest to be controlling which one we go after, because as the way we operate, there's a pretty large operational capacity that we have to build within the city between installation vendors where we install devices in the cars and things like that, that we do like to make sure there is demand in the market before we launch, but we tend to like to control that ourselves.
Is there an installation fee?
Good question. So yes, there normally is an installation fee and a monthly charge to have a device in your car. The installation fee being $100, the monthly device being $20 a month, because very much like your smartphone, this device that we install in the car is basically like a smartphone without a screen, and that actually has a data plan like a phone does. But in Boston right now, for our first 200 car owners, we're actually waiving that $100 installation fee and waiving the $20 a month fee for the first 6 months. We're at 150 cars right now, so we're getting very close. If any of you guys are interested in putting your cars on, now's the time.
As a renter, how do you differentiate yourself from Zipcar, for instance? If you're renting a car, we're like, why would I want one of yours versus like a Zipcar where they're well-known and so on, and they have lots of placements?
Makes sense. And actually, I should be repeating the question. So how do we differentiate ourselves from Zipcar and the like? And the way that we do that is actually kind of threefold. One, we are a much more convenient experience. Right now, the way Zipcar operates, obviously they have lots of cars that you have to go to, and you have to basically go to where the cars are. At full scale in a market where we are effectively everywhere, there are cars in every street. So a good comparison point is we launched in San Francisco about 6 years ago, and we're not at full capacity there, but we're pretty big, and we have about 2,500 cars, which is 3 times as many Zipcars in the market. And there's really not a single street you can go on where there's not at least one Getaround car. So one is the convenience factor. 2, we double down on customer service. We know that because our main business is keeping the owner and the renter happy, we really have to double down there. We have to make sure that both sides are being taken care of. We have, from an owner and renter side, roadside assistance and all the things that are needed to have a smooth rental, but then also being able to cover all the issues afterwards. And obviously the most important and our third and our golden star is this technology we install on the device. I don't know if any of you guys have used a Zipcar recently, but sometimes those cards can be a little bit finicky and the technology isn't perfect. Our technology is on point. Just as much as your phone can work to send a text, it can open up these cars, and that's really where our bread and butter lies. We really depend on that technology to give the customer a very seamless experience. Oh, is that it?
So, 2 questions. One is in the area, in the city that you already operate a longer period of time. In terms of those owners that stay within the system, and for those owners who drop out, what is the rate? For those, how frequent they sign up and then something drop out? So that's number 1 question. Second is that if this kind of investment scenario is working, is there a possibility that your company would actually go out to purchase a tons of cars you sell and then operate like that? And could that be part of your future business model as well?
Yeah, so 2 questions.
Yeah.
First one, basically, what's our churn? How many cars are coming on the platform and coming off? And in a new market like Boston, our churn is actually incredibly low. We have incredibly high demand right now. Boston's actually our fastest growing market from both the supply and demand side. So market like this, it's very small, churn tends to be pretty low. When you get more developed in a market like San Francisco, there's an assumed amount of churn that you just accept, right? There's people who move out of the city, they change jobs, they have a higher need for their car. You're pretty much dependent upon how available that car is going to be from the owner perspective. So we're falling around 10% is a great place to draw a stake, but as markets grow, it kind of depends city to city. From the second question being, are we ever going to be getting into the game of buying our own fleet and building our own batch of cars? So I can kind of answer that in 2 parts. First part is, we as a company don't own any cars. That's the beauty of our product. We have very low overhead as compared to other car rental companies. So we'd like to keep it that way. We're not in a position to be buying cars and owning the entire process from a cost perspective. But what we are in the position to do is allow people who want to own fleets themselves to have a whole new way of making money off of them. And so we've actually already started pursuing partnerships like that across the board. We're testing most of those in San Francisco right now. We've seen a large number of fleets interested in joining our platform as a way to either make additional income on cars that they have that are underutilized. They may be doing another type of rental service or something else with the vehicles, and we act as a great way to kind of fill the gap from a revenue perspective. Or people who are just interested in getting into the game. And with the advent of autonomous cars, fleet ownership is definitely, the interest in fleet ownership is on the rise. So we find ourselves marrying very well to people who are interested in operating and running large fleets.
Thank you.
Awesome.